Hey everybody, I'm Sean Begby, and you're listening to the APTA Academy of Leadership and Innovations podcast, a place where leadership sparks possibility and innovation lights the path ahead. Each month, we want to speak to a trailblazer shaping the story of physical therapy. Today's conversation is with Keri Dickinson, and Keri has been an awesome mentor to me, and I've loved working with her in LAMP 301. But Keri, for everyone who doesn't know you, you are in LAMP. I don't know why I said 301 in LAMP in general. Keri, for anyone who doesn't know you, care to give them a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the invite to join you guys today. So I am a physical therapist at my core heart. I've been in practice for 29 years. I moved into an official leadership role back in 2012. Um, it was one of those circumstances where it was, being a great clinician, not to brag about myself, but we can all say that, right? Being a great clinician and being asked to move into a leadership role with not much formal official leadership experience and what that actually truly meant. And then about 7 years into that role, I was asked by a VP to take some formal leadership training. He asked all of his direct reports to do that. And so, of course, I dove right in and I found the LAMP leadership program. And, I tell this story a lot, but I remember being day one around noontime, having this aha moment of, I need this in my life all of the time. I need these people around me all of the time. And then shortly after that, you and I met for the first go around of our 301 project. And I just was again super inspired by you. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but super inspired by you and some of the questions that you asked during that 301 time. And that was actually smack in the middle of COVID when we did that. So um, that's kind of where my journey began. I became part of the LAMP faculty. I was the chair for a short period of time. Um, the faculty piece in the development of the program and connecting with people is the second part of my core. And currently, right now, I serve as the newly slated VP of the Academy of Leadership and Innovation. So I'm learning all about the Academy from a different angle, which is also awe-inspiring of what it is that we offer. So my 9 to 5, I'm a site manager of a large multidisciplinary outpatient clinic here in Massachusetts that's a part of the UMass Memorial Health System. And I've been in that role for 2 years. So I
Awesome.
left my previous role of 27 years which was an interesting journey for sure.
It is, you honestly brought up a couple things, especially on the start when you started talking about clinician. It brought me to kind of like what we had kind of discussed that we wanted to talk about today was that both things can be true, right?
Yeah.
And why is it that like we feel like if you're a great clinician, then the truth is that means you're going to be a great leader. And I don't think they're related, but I definitely think it's like a good intro to the topic of it. So like what has made this idea kind of stick in your head, and made this like something that you focus on?
So it was actually Kristen that shared something when we were going through our newly revitalized 301 project. She shared a post that was from Justin Wright. It says, both can be true. I apologize if I'm butchering that a little bit, but it was for me, I was having this inner battle between trying to figure out who my authentic self was. I had left my role of 27 years. It's where I started as a new grad. I was very much identifying with that organization. Um, and I was trying to figure out who I was, who do I want to be, um, and having this kind of ping pong match back and forth. And when Kristen shared that both things can be true, it was this huge aha moment in that you don't have to be one thing during a particular moment and then another thing during a different moment. You want to try and bridge those two things together. And not necessarily meet in the middle, but be very much situational for what the moment needs, right? So you can be empathetic and still be accountable or hold accountable, depending on the situation that you're talking about. You can be a clinician. So being a clinician is being a leader in that moment, and also be that support lead person when you are developing a new strategic plan or implementing a new strategic plan that has been handed to you, from for a lack of a better word, right? So kind of that, not kind of, but being that bridge between the people and the process, the people and the people, is really where that aha moment stuck with me.
You're 100% right. I think that aha moment leads to some complexities in life. And as we're talking about leaders, why do you think like it becomes hard for leaders to hold both of these truths, that we often feel that pressure to choose one side of issue instead of trying to find that commonality?
So for me, I think one of my defaults is falling into that space of being analytical, sometimes over analytical, right? Like trying to, I originally thought that I was trying to move to a place of fixing so that people would feel better about something, right? Well, whatever it is, whatever that was, because I didn't want the person to feel bad. I very much, through a lot of time in self-reflecting, realized that I didn't want to feel bad or pressure or unease or vulnerability in that moment. So, um, moving to that space of listening and recognizing, okay, I'm spending too much time in this analytical space for me. Just listen. Sometimes things don't need to be fixed, right? So being one thing or another can hold you in a pause and lose momentum and moving forward. Okay. So if you think about it in the clinical space, if we can use that as a analogy, if you're working with a patient and you're being too much maybe not listening to what your patient is saying and trying to stick to advancing what it is that they need to advance, what that impact might be, right? Compared to being maybe too empathetic, because that can happen, and then not advancing that patient along in there. So that those analogies work really well for us, right? So when you're in that leading space, taking time to pause and realize that I'm too much of this. I need to move back to the middle of that bridge.
No, I 100% agree, and I think that that takes a special skill to learn how to do that. And so, like one of the things that is a thing I absolutely love is emotional intelligence. How do you think emotional intelligence helps you navigate competing truths?
I think it is the source of that. I think it is that is 100% the muscle that we have to continuously build and stretch and for capacity, right? Um, I don't want to come across as that I've nailed this 100%. That is not the case. I am absolutely 100% a human, um, through and through. And real, I get frustrated in the moment. I get nervous. I get scared. But taking that time to pause, understand what it is that I'm feeling, and in the moment, naming it. And one of the my goals is to do simply that. Okay. Like, right in front of you, I'm nervous. This is a live thing, right? Um, well, live recorded. We'll call it
Live
live.
recorded.
um, and understanding, okay, my heart rate's a little high. Am I talking too much, right? Like in the moment, building that skill and having understanding that, um, helping regulate that, but not regulate too much, right? We want to be sure that we don't over-regulate, which is a really hard balance.
it is, but I think like that's part of the like that's the learning. That's the joy of learning this, right?
Right.
Take it back to like treatment, right? Like the first time I'm from the ortho world, so like the first time you hit a Lockman's and it's positive, you like usually have a grin on your face, even though it's like devastating news for the athlete that you're testing it on. But you're like, oh, I finally hit this, and like it's emotional regulation that you've got to do that. But like that's the thing, and also you worried about like talking. Like you don't need to worry about talking. I've seen you present. You do these things well. Just like be free, be natural, and like if anyone wants to know about the fun of recording this, I screwed up the introduction to start this. So you're a good introduction. That's the second version because I screwed up the first one immensely. And like that's just it. Like that's part of life. And I think like that's the beauty of this topic is like we can be both. We can be like strong and fragile at the same time. We can be passionate and learning at the same time. And like that's the fun part about this. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit as leaders of like,
Oh my God,
I'm
yeah.
on a journey of learning myself. And
Yeah,
like,
it's so true. Yeah,
you know,
100%.
and like one thing I will say that like the academy gives me that I love, and for anyone who's a non-member or potential member that's looking at this and here's it, there's one line I want you to really think about is like if you're in any type of leadership, like this is a place where you can find the people that are going through the same ordeals you're doing. Because I will tell younger leaders that like leadership can be lonely. You have to find your tribe of leaders. So we
Hmm.
always look for that cultural tribe of everything else, but with leadership too, it's a different skill set, and we all feel like we're on islands because we're making decisions that impact. We live in the gray. You know, black and white is easy, gray is not.
Hmm.
We live in it, and like it gives us anguish from time to time because we don't celebrate our successes. We probably all generalization here, but we all suck at celebrating our success. We remember the other things. Yeah, I know she's pointing to herself for those listening, and like it's true. Like we don't do it, but I think like this is a topic where we can talk about bridging the style of doing it and like letting yourself know it's okay. So
That's
with
so true. That's so true. Letting yourself know it's okay. Letting yourself know that it's okay after somebody comes into your office and says to you, I really feel like we need to have better communication throughout our department. And you're sitting there saying, I don't know how much more and how more to communicate. But in that moment, realizing that this is important to this person and I need to ask some specific questions to figure out what make it better for that person, right? And then not beating yourself up over it on the ride home and having that grace of, I'm doing the best that I can and this is great information and I'm gonna do better tomorrow, right?
right, and then like getting to the truth of that question, right? Is
Right.
the truth like communication, or is the truth they don't like what was communicated to them?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
like like understanding like people interpret messages differently, and
Hmm.
like knowing your team well enough that like this is the group that I have to have the pre-meeting with to discuss the meeting. These are the people that want it in writing so they can look at it 70 times. These are the people that just want me to be who I am and genuine with them, and they'll get where it's coming from. And like again, like it's like having a cohort of patients. If we're doing this right, every patient is not the same. Every patient is on
Exactly.
their own journey, and like the mental aspect of what we do is the important part, not the physical. The physical skills are the easy part. The hard part is the mental knowledge of how do I interact with a patient and get this patient to buy into what they need.
Right. And that was one of the biggest things that I had like after I had taken the first LAMP 101, I had unintentionally when I moved into that official leadership role, I thought I had to be two different people, right? I was still I treated half the time and then had the administrative role half the time. And I was the clinician for half of the day, and then I did this mental unintentional shift of director. For I'm putting my fingers in quotes, right? Like what does that even mean, right? So when I had realized what I was doing and making that shift back to who I was in the clinic space, that's the real me, right? That is the authentic me, and I should be able to carry that through any four walls that I'm breathing in, right? And I will be honest that I did lose that a little bit about 12 years into my journey, which ultimately led to me making a shift. So I love the fact that we can use our clinical analogies because they are so relevant when we're talking about leadership. You're treating patients, whether it's on the 15 or a half hour, you're constantly having to move into a different style of leadership when you're driving that patient through their treatment plan, right? And this is, I don't want to say it's exactly the same, but it's real close when you're in a formal role for sure.
Yeah, and like I think you kind of hit something there too. It is leadership, but like it's also learning that it's not our journey.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
everyone's on their own journey, and like
Yeah.
our role is a guide. It's
Yeah.
not the main character,
Yeah.
and it's really hard because it's not how we're designed as people.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yep.
and
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I love that. And that's if being a leader is needs to come from a place of servitude, right? We are serving the people that we support. My goals are my goals, but the person's goals that are the group of people that are in front of me, those goals are very important too from a development standpoint, right? Like my ultimate goal is to build multipliers from a leadership standpoint.
one of my favorite books of all time, Multipliers. Right?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it is the thing, and like it's the thing we all want to strive for, but it's so hard because like we get we get pulled in those different directions, and you have to come back to how do I bridge that? So like from your perspective, like what are the when people are building these bridges internally and into their organizations, what do you think like the biggest like thing you've learned? What's the one important lesson you've learned for yourself and for like how to build that bridge between who you are and what has to be kind of done from a work perspective?
Putting the people first. Another great book from one of our favorite people, Amy Lofko, her book People First. I am quoting her, but I also feel like that's where that bridge starts, right? The one side of the bridge is always going to be the people that you support, and then the other side of the bridge is whatever it is that you're working on at the time, right?
Yeah.
Um, so putting them first and the relationship that you have with that person coming from a place of trust, making sure your foundational trust is firm and solid, um, and working that piece and having understanding that there is emotion behind absolutely everything that you do day to day.
Yeah, and I think there's a section of us that get like people first is it, but there's so many people that like struggle with that. So like if you had to put that into like the 10-word answer of how you're going to help people see that, what do you think that is?
10-word answer. If you put your people first, if you put your people first, that's 6 words. The desired outcome will follow.
There you go. All right, I like it.
Was that 10? It might have been
That
11 or
was
12.
10.
It
You
was
know,
10.
we're not math majors, right?
It's-
Like accounting's not the thing. So, but
It,
I think that's right. It is. It's like the goals start overlying and on each other. Like you start sharing goals when you're moving forward in the right directions. So, one of the things you kind of mentioned earlier was, you know, us holding these ideals on empathy and like firmness of like we need to be accountable. How do we bridge that, or why do leaders view that first off as like two opposites? Why do we view as accountability and compassion as polar opposites of each other?
I think maybe it might come from a place of not understanding the person that you're, or group of people that you're trying to hold accountable, or maybe not understanding the root cause of why accountability is needed. We have, like, if you think of a specific circumstance, like not following a process, right? Like getting to the root cause of why they're not following the process, rather than consistently holding them something for accountability that accountable that they might not have understanding in, right? So then you're banging your head against, why isn't this person doing this when I have not done the work to find why they're not. Is that answering your question? Am I getting there?
Yeah, no,
Yeah. So
I agree.
right. So there's people, process, technology. There's we want to it's and then breaking that down from accountability's perspectives, there's behavior and there's process, right? So what it is that we're addressing? Is there lack of a motivation, right? So doing that work to find out why there's a break in the appearance of somebody maybe not being accountable.
Yeah, and like the only other thing I would add to it is I think like sometimes with accountability, it becomes hard to hold people accountable because we have this ornate wanting to be liked and it creates a little bit of
Yes.
conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's already like role delineation
Mm-hmm.
because we can't separate like interaction with a person from role delineation always.
Yep.
And so like those lines become blurred and then accountability becomes harder, especially with the people you like, trust, and are around all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I have this might sound like a weird statement to make, but I very much let go of the want to be liked piece of the leadership lens. I probably had it early on. The older I get, that space gets farther away. Um, and I can definitely relate to it moving into a new role, where the previous manager had been there for a very long time, and being sure to remind myself, just like you said, that you want them to get to know you. And we all have that desire to be liked. We really truly do. Um, but having the strength in the confidence that that's not always gonna that's not always gonna happen. You're not always gonna be liked. And then making sure that you can flip that to, they're not liking the decision. It's not liking.
Right. And I think the longer we do this and the more we get into our personal journeys,
Mm,
I think there's almost a flip, right?
yeah,
Like the more that you can get comfortable being a leader, an authentic leader, the more people tend to like you because they know like the accountability is coming from a place of accountability is love, right? Like it really is.
right.
It's because yeah, right.
I
That was
love that
the
you
best thing
just
I
said
ever
that.
just
I
said. That's
love that
probably
you
the best
said
thing I
that.
ever said.
Yes, I love that you said that. Is that's the organization I work for, not to speak organizationally, but that's one of their mottos. Their accountability is love, feedback is love. So I love that you said that. That just gave me the goosebumps, Sean. That was amazing.
Well,
Yes,
I mean, I do think it's true because I think when
it
you're
is.
on this journey, you want people to like you too as a
Yep,
person. And then you kind of get to this point where you give up that ego-driven portion of it.
yep,
You start saying, well, no, I'm going to be the authentic self and I'm going to do things that are like best. And then as I do that, it's going to it leads to people kind of like trusting you more and being more honest with you. And I would say like when you're younger in this process, and like I think this is kind of that bridge too, is like when you're younger, you have to have an answer for everything.
Hmm.
Younger is the amount of years in this process. It's not like you're
Right.
for anyone that's
Y-
questioning that.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah. Younger,
But
greener, maybe. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 But then like there becomes this point where like my answers are no longer yes and no. They're usually like, crap, that's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah.
You
Maybe.
know, yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
You tell me. You're far smarter than
Yeah.
I am when it comes to this.
Yep.
And like I think that becomes like when you're able to get to that point where you can say that, people are going to respect it more because they do know you're being authentic. And then if you're holding them accountable at that point, like they can see those two on the same level. But it's not something you walk into, or it's not something that like you can tell yourself this is what I'm going to do and this is where I'm going to be in 6 months. I really feel like it's a process that happens over time if you're working on yourself to be authentic to who you are. And as you're a leader, you start realizing that leadership is not easy and mistakes do occur.
Yep. 100%.
So that brings me to something I've actually been thinking about a lot here in the last week. It's like, as leaders, why do you think it's so hard for us to pause, to practice the pause?
Well, I think that that's a there's many answers to that. So for me, I think practicing that pause, we can be potentially be uncomfortable with the silence, um, and the expectation that we're supposed to have the answer, um, and moving to that place of vulnerability. And just like you just shared, it's okay that we don't have the answer. Um, and we tend to, and whether you're in a formal leadership role or not, moving past that space of, oh, I'm feeling really uncomfortable, and I'm starting to move to that, maybe it's anger, right? Or frustration. And then knowing how important it is and putting that into practice and recognizing what you're feeling and being vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I need time to think about that. Or can we come back and talk, depending on what situation you're in, right? That pause is gold. It's really similar to like the mindful stop that we talk about in communication, right? But for me, the pause process proceed mantra that I've created for myself, that pause has really truly helped me be in the moment with whoever is in front of me, and also in the moment for myself, which is probably even more important for the person that's standing in front of me. If I'm not recognizing in myself, how can I recognize in the person in front of me?
No, that's 100%. That's a great answer. I think it's just it leads to like a lot of intentional growth
Mm,
with that, and
yep,
it's like maybe not in an intentional way, but
right.
it really does that. So as you've kind of learned this process, what's the one leadership behavior that you've had to unlearn?
uh, Over analyzing and jumping to fix a problem that might not need to be fixed.
We all do it, right?
We all do it.
We all
Yep.
want to fix the problem, and sometimes like
Yep.
people have to experience problems. It's okay.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. What?
I think we can bring it back to like clinical treatment, right? Like peds development, right? Like we don't let kids succeed on their first time.
Right.
If a kid skips a developmental sequence, we put them back down into the correct one
Right.
because we know that's what they've got to learn. And like so, like if we skip steps of like learning, that doesn't help everyone else. It just does that. But like, man, that's so hard to not fix problems you see.
It is. It is. It is really hard. And the other piece to that is with that pause, and then, taking time. you could potentially be fixing the wrong problem, right? So, yeah, for me, whether it was in my professional life or my personal life, learning to just be in the moment and have understanding is this a listening thing or is this a fixed thing, right? Yeah, and having that understanding that I have a tendency to default to avoiding my own feelings, which leads to avoiding the feelings of others. And that can be really detrimental to building trustful relationships when you're ignoring that piece, unintentionally ignoring that piece.
Right. No, 100%. So I think you might have already kind of alluded to it then. How has your leadership style evolved throughout your career? And like, where do you see the next phase for you going in that journey?
Oh, well, that second question is retirement. Uh,
Oh, come on. We never get to do that, right?
um, so how, what was the first question? How has my leadership style evolved?
Yeah.
Okay.
How's it evolved throughout your career of doing this?
So, when I think back to my, early days of clinician, I was the loud one, finger quotes going on, everybody, in the clinic. The humorous one, singing with my patients, and then moving into the leadership role. There were a couple of instances that I can recall where I very quickly moved into a quiet space, feeling like I needed to be more observant and understand workplace culture. And I became more of a quiet leader, which isn't a bad thing. Some of our most influential leaders are in that quiet space, and I do feel like I sometimes do that. But through this past journey over a couple of years and starting to really, well, a little bit before that, I started to feel very much unauthentic. I was losing myself and I could not understand why. So through some self-reflection and our new 301, I am unintentionally giving props to that, but that's really where the growth happened for me. Um, Being prompted by Chris to continue to kind of pull that thread and discovering the root cause of some of that and returning back to my loud leadership style and discovering that that description for me is really that bridge between the people and whatever the other thing is on the other side of the bridge, and being able to move across or stand in the middle. So I think I now describe myself as a bridge leader. And, there's thousands of descriptions of leadership styles, and maybe this one is described as something else. But for me, the bridge is what really resonates.
No, I think that's an accurate description of you, knowing you, and like that is it's interesting to think about you going from like loud to quiet because like me knowing you, like I've always envisioned you kind of more as the boisterous leader, not the quiet leader. And so it kind of makes me smile when I hear you talking about that switch and that change that's occurred.
I guess maybe it just speaks to where I can be my authentic self, right? Like from a
It, it,
comfort standpoint.
and
Yeah.
it's true when we find our tribes, we can do
Yeah.
that so much
Yeah.
easier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like conversations like this are so easy to have because like we know each other and like it becomes real that like you can do this and like you kind of hit on something that I wanted to highlight with that though. You talked about retirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit away.
It's been away
It's a bit away, a
but
little
like
bit.
uh it's funny how like something sticks in your head that you see and then it's recalled in a conversation. So when you mention retirement, I think about the Barefoot Gang, which is a group of leaders that I have followed for years that were active in APTA association leadership and things like that. And like their connection as a leadership, as a group of people, is really something that is beautiful to see. And like they're no longer really active. a lot of them are no longer like active. They do certain things in different sections and different things like that, but not really as active as they once were. But they all still get together, and like that commonality is leadership and shared experience for them. And
Mm.
I love seeing them post when they're traveling and do things like that. I often ask them if they're looking for younger members to join, and they always tell me no. But like I love seeing that because it's true. Like when you find that group of connection points, it's made
Mm.
like it can fulfill your ability to become better at being a leader.
Wow, 100%. Maybe we can have maybe it's not barefoot leader, maybe it's like still wearing flip-flops. Or
Still wearing flip-flops. There you go.
almost there. The almost there
We're
tribe.
almost there. Yeah, no, I look every once in a while. I'm like 10 more years.
Yep.
So as we act like the old ones that we are, uh, looking back at your career, what advice would you have given to your younger self starting in leadership?
You know what? I've actually thought about this because I've asked myself, would I have said yes? Um, and the answer is still yes, do this. But look, I would have given myself look for more specifically for a mentor, get more information as to what this thing called leadership means. I had no idea because I had been I grew up in one organization, right? I had no idea what this big world of leaders looks like, right? So find find your people. I only had people within my organization, and my tribe was in my organization, and that was awesome. It was absolutely incredible. But look more for resources so that you can continue to grow. That's the advice I would have given myself.
No, I think that's exactly right. I think that's an
Yeah.
awesome answer. So with that, I got one final question for you. We're gonna bridge it all together since we're talking about bridges.
But you see, I got one right behind me.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna ask. I'm like, did you pick that one on purpose? But I feel like that's usually your default. Your
No,
default.
I picked this one on
Did
purpose.
you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So leadership often asks us to stand in that space that has the competing truths. I mean, what? And this is the all-encompassing part. What have you learned about yourself by choosing to stay in that space rather than, rushing to the one side or the other for an answer?
I have learned that I am strong being uncomfortable.
The mic drop right there. That's 100% true. And, if there's one takeaway, it's learn to be strong, being uncomfortable because
Learn to be strong to be uncomfortable.
it's where we all are.
Yep, 100%.
Well, anything else you want to add before we get ready to go?
No, thank you so much. This was a super fun conversation. I really, really enjoyed it, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my journey and talk about pause, process, proceed.
No, I think it was awesome. And thank you for joining us today on the Academy of Leadership and Innovation podcast, where leadership and advocacy and where leadership advances strategy and helps drive our profession forward. We hope today's discussion equips you to move with some clarity, influence, and purpose. So until next time, continue shaping the future of physical therapy with intention and impact.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, thank you.